My name is Drishti Sadia, and I am the founder of KIGAD, a kinematic integrated Gait analysis for Alzheimer's diagnosis. As global life expectancy increases, the risk of neurodegenerative diseases has emerged as a major public health challenge. Neuropsychiatric and neurological conditions currently account for 276 million disability-adjusted life years annually, surpassing the combined burden of cardiovascular disease, ischemic heart disease, and strokes. What makes the issue worse is the fact that neurodegenerative diseases are incurable and thus irreversible. The only option now is preventability. Preventability has been effective, improving life expectancy by anywhere from 5 to 20 years, depending on the stage of diagnosis. This means that the number one way to prevent any sort of neurodegenerative diseases is by improving diagnosis, which is exactly what our project focuses on. Specifically, we focus on Alzheimer's disease, the most common neurodegenerative disease out there. Let's talk about the problem. Over 439 million individuals are globally affected by Alzheimer's disease. Specifically, 55 million are affected primarily with Alzheimer's disease itself. 69 million are in a pre-dormal phase where they're experiencing mild cognitive impairment. And even before that, 315 million are in a preclinical phase where they have Alzheimer's in their pathology, but they don't have sufficient symptoms. Despite the prevalence of this issue, it is highly neglected. While deaths from stroke, heart disease, and HIV have been on a constant decline, Alzheimer's deaths have surged by over 145% from 2000 to 2019. This is substantial because in no scenario should the amount of deaths be increasing. And this is especially concerning because if we continue on the trajectory that we're at, the amount of people with Alzheimer's will triple, affecting 1.3 billion individuals by 2050. 75% of people with dementia lack formal diagnosis, thereby missing out on essential treatment, care, and support services. This is globally and needs to be addressed. Because diagnosis is falling behind. Currently, there are two ways to get diagnosed. First is using MRI imaging, which is often invasive and expensive. And second is blood testing, which often requires numerous visits to the same clinic, which 57% of people are unable to partake in and is a huge barrier to them. Given these variations to diagnosis, we proposed Gait analysis. Longitudinal studies have shown that changes in motor function, such as Gait speed, can emerge up to 12 years before mild cognitive impairment becomes evident. That is something we want to leverage. In the chart above, what you can take a look at is that in the preclinical phase, Gait speed is one of the first parameters that is observed in Alzheimer's disease, and that is what we want to track. The problem, however, is that Gait analysis is expensive, especially in-person Gait analysis, costing upwards of $20,000 on equipment alone. Thus, we propose Gait analysis virtually. We take any video and we can extract 2D coordinates or 3D coordinates from them to get spatiotemporal parameters or kinematic parameters. Spatiotemporal parameters are focused on things and the relation between your body and the environment. They're focused on things like stride length, cadence, the angle that you're moving at. The key thing is, how does your body compare to the space you're in? Kinematic parameters, on the other hand, are more so focused on your body itself. They're focused on the relation between different joints, joint angles, symmetry analysis, and specifically tracking the trajectory of your joints. That is what we want to specialize in. We are going to be performing using 3D coordinates, kinematic parameterization. Here's our theory of change. We take any 2D video. From there on, we're able to perform diagnosis, just like in this video. This video shows on the left a 2D video and shows where the person is expected to be. On the right-hand side, you can actually take a look at the person from their front-hand view. You can see that the person is walking away, and in the right-hand image, you can see the person walking forward. This is something that is specifically creating and showing how we can extract the 3D coordinates and how we can better visualize this. From there on, we're able to actually perform Alzheimer's detection from these 3D coordinates. By doing this, patients can get diagnosed earlier and seek earlier care, tapping in and harnessing those proactive approaches that we have outlined, specifically a preventive approach so they can get access to more treatment. Here's our methodology. We gain data from the ML-MS research group of the iCube laboratory. Because of copyright, we are not able to actually share the video footage, which is why the previous video was blacked out, but we do show how we are able to visualize that data set and further gain accuracy measures. From there on, we extract it into specific image frames, and we perform something called an HRNet W32 framework. What we basically do is we increase the resolution of these images by upsampling and downsampling the image. After that, we perform something called a pair, This allows us to gain specific parameters. We're able to get camera features. We're also able to get the 2D coordinates, which we can then use to generate the 3D coordinates, which are going to be a big part of the analysis that we perform. After we get those 3D coordinates, we feed them into an LSTM. Specifically, we take 20 frames of data using a sliding window technique. This allows us to get sufficient data for a couple of seconds instead of just one frame, which is less than 1 second of data. After that, we feed it into the LSTM, and in the last layer, which is the softmax layer, we get the probability that it is going to be in one of 5 categories. Either it's going to be healthy, it's going to be mild dementia or severe dementia, or it's going to be mild Alzheimer's or severe Alzheimer's. After getting this analysis, we are able to feed it and get the results that we need. This approach is much better than anything else on the market, and here's why. Because unlike spatiotemporal metrics like stride length and speed, which only provide you scalar summaries, 3D joint points detail how each joint is moving with a vector representation. Second, because we're actually less sensitive to noise. 3D joint points are less susceptible to variations in camera angles or lighting conditions because they're focused on the relation between the points, not with the environment. And lastly, because we're able to resist occlusions. Specifically, if a portion of a leg is hidden, the model can use the visible joint points to infer the positions of these occluded joints. Here are our results. We show steady performance with an accuracy of 95.62%. Moreover, in the confusion matrix, what we're able to see is that we are able to distinguish between levels of severity and different types of neurodegenerative diseases, showing promise in our model. Our model is currently one of the best in state-of-art technology. In fact, it is the best specifically on this data set. Here's what you need to take away from this presentation. First, virtual Gait analysis is effective, and if we improve data collection efforts, we can improve how Gait analysis is performed. Second, 3D kinematic points are essential to consider, and especially if we keep going on and we keep finding different parameters like joint angles, we can make a huge difference. And lastly, LSTMs offer great promise, especially with the accuracy that we achieved in our model. Combining these 3 efforts, we hope to make a difference.